Hello and welcome everyone back to
Not Fighting.
We've been over the introducing ourselves thing. I'm Tyler Bishop. This is my wife, Jena Bishop.
Yes, hello.
Together we are the Bishops, and we're also, for the majority of the time, not fighting.
Yeah.
I would say we fight. We actually, it sounds funny, but it's like we fight more physically than we do relationally.
Yes, but not in a domestic abuse type of way.
Yeah. So if you're like just stumbling onto this podcast and you don't understand the premise, that would sound terrible. It's like,
just check out my Instagram feed and you'll understand more of what we're talking about.
Yeah. Go to another.
He's my training dummy, basically.
Yes, for martial arts. Which,
yes.
I mean, if you're this deep into the podcast and you're still listening,
you don't understand
for us to
that.
Justify, I feel like we've lost you already anyways.
Yeah. For sure.
And I think that's one of the things we've been doing a lot more recently. It's been kind of fun whenever, everyone that listens regularly, or if you're listening for the first time, like you announced a couple months ago that you were going to be starting an MMA career. Like maybe it's one fight, maybe it's like, a dozen. And
I doubt it's one.
And 3 UFC world titles. But like... The thing that I think is fun is like I trained MMA when we first started jiu-jitsu like 14, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I trained probably for 6 or 7 years, stand-up wrestling, jiu-jitsu.
Was that much that you were doing stand-up and stuff?
Yeah, 6-7 years.
Okay.
I feel like you're skeptical.
I feel like my memory's fuzzy because I feel like after you did your first MMA fight, you'd kind of stopped training all the stand-up and stuff.
Oh, no. It was whenever I'd had 2 fights in a row fall out. And
oh, yeah.
One I was cutting a lot of weight for, and it ended up being like, it's going to be outside. And I was like, it's July in Illinois. Like, I don't...
No,
that doesn't sound good. And they're like, it's going to rain, so fight's off. And I'm like, cool, eating donuts. Yeah. And then they're like, fight's on, not going to rain. And then it was like, all right, well, better go burn off those donuts. And then, like, at the last minute, they're like, yeah, we're changing your opponent. We want you to fight Spencer Fisher. For those that are uninitiated, actually most people probably have no idea. Spencer Fisher he's like a 14, 15 fight UFC veteran back in the day. But he was going through a stint where he lost some fights and they were trying to take him down to the lower levels to like get some wins. And Monty Cox, his promoter, ran a bunch of the shows in the area. And I was on that show and they're like, we want you to fight Spencer Fisher last minute outside, maybe in the rain.
yeah, hard pass.
So I was like, and then the next one after that, it was supposed to be a fight against a tough guy, and I got a concussion in sparring, and I remember not really knowing it was a concussion, just having a headache for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But knowing I got hit pretty bad, and then we were 2 weeks, 3 weeks out from the fight, again cut weight, and then it was like, oh yeah, that guy's not gonna make it. And I was just like, I'm done with this. I hate stand-up at that point. I had a concussion. I was just like, just jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. But that was like when you were a blue belt, right?
Yeah. It was white. It was my entire time as a white belt and blue belt. And at purple belt, I think I was still training, but not near, like more for fun in the way.
Yeah. Because I'm like, I don't remember after we got married, you training stand-up or anything.
No, I did a little bit because I actually remember.
But maybe with Derek Darrow a little bit.
Now we're just having like a can you remember back conversation?
Yeah.
But no, I remember there was a Saturday or something. I can't remember what you were doing, but I remember coming home from sparring in Troy, Missouri. Shout out to Troy, Missouri.
No, don't shout that out.
Shout out to all the people that stormed the Capitol. Most of them from Troy, Missouri.
Yeah, probably.
But man, made so many enemies there.
Okay.
No, like I remember going and then just getting leg kicked a ton. And then we didn't have much of a yard to mow or upkeep or anything like that. But I just remember doing yard work the rest of the day. And you kind of like being apprehensive about the idea of telling you that I was just sore and like could not like.
Yeah, because I would be like, suck it up. We're doing this yard work.
We planned on it or whatever.
We are mowing this lawn and I'm planting flowers that I'm probably going to die.
Because I'm on a kick. But yeah, I was on a kick. And that kick was
getting kicked.
Other people getting kicked.
Kicking you.
Kicking me.
Yeah.
And yeah, for the most part, I just remember being so sore that day. But that was the first place that we lived, not actually our 5 Allison spot. So that was the first year we were
Why
married.
were we doing yard work there?
I don't remember. That's why I'm like, I don't know if we mowed the yard.
I feel like you were concussed and you're mixing things because we didn't have to mow the yard at that place.
That place doesn't exist. Yeah, so but no, what's been fun on this detour we took is like you've been, obviously training MMA, working on it, and you and I have been kind of just doing some sparring and stuff on Saturdays, and actually Saturdays when we record the podcast, and we actually just did it now. I
messed him up.
But it's been really fun because we were talking about like the idea of not fighting and that being we don't fight in the relationship, we fight like on the mat for the most part.
I feel like today was one of those days where I'm like really like trying to hold myself back from getting angry with you for whatever reason, and it's not your fault. It's like I'm not communicating well with like what I expect of you, and then you're also like anticipating what I want from you, and it's just like this bad mix of like where I'm just gonna be annoyed, and it's just like that's when a fight will happen because I'm like, ugh, you're not doing what I want you to do. Well, but I didn't tell you what I wanted you to do, so how would you know? And
that would be the worst of all, is if you felt like I was anticipating what you wanted and was doing it proactively.
Yeah, that's what annoys me the most, because I feel like you do that.
And see, that's the thing, and that's my point, which is I've learned over time. Like, I'm pretty decent at learning. I would say it's my core competency in a lot of ways. And for me, I've learned that there's certain gifts I don't give you, that those gifts are going to suck. When we first got married, what was I?
Oh my God. He was bad at giving gifts.
Bad.
And I'm somebody that, like, if you give me a gift, if we're like, we have like a personal relationship, like, it's really hard for me to be like, yeah, I really love it. Like, even if I try, like, it just comes off as very ingenuine. So I'm like very much like, I don't want to like just have something and just to not hurt your feelings, like keep something and waste your money. It's just gonna sit. So I'm gonna tell you, like, I don't like it.
I remember getting you the Snapchat spectacles or whatever.
Oh yeah, those were ugly.
For whatever reason, years ago, I thought you would think those were cool.
Yeah,
and which they weren't.
I mean, nobody thought they were cool, so
no one did.
That's like an example of something that's like, yeah, that was just stupid.
Shout out to Snapchat. No, but the thing that I thought was funny about it is, like, I remember, like, I got my feelings hurt, and this is like part of it too.
Yeah,
it's like I feel like I get my feelings hurt, and I got you that gift, and your response was, "Why did you get these?"
I'm so bad. I can't hold it back. But I'm like, I don't know why you thought that I would like that.
I just remember you being like, why did you get these? And I was like, explained it. Like, at this point, I'm like selling the.
Yeah, that was the thing, is like, you would try so hard to surprise me with stuff that you would like have to sell me on why I would like it, instead of just like, no, I just, I'd like regular sunglasses better.
And I hedged in. I was like, and blah blah blah. If you whatever, send them back. And then you're like, okay, where did you buy them? It's like the second thing you say is like, why did you get these? Where did you buy them? I've already made up my mind. Like,
these are getting returned.
I've ignored all the things that you said, and I plan to return them. I bought them on like eBay because they were like hard to get at the time. I don't know.
Yeah, but they were so ugly. That was the thing. They were ugly. I'm like, I would never wear these. Like, I understand like the gimmick of it all, but no. Yeah.
I don't know why they made them stupid.
But you just tried too hard because you wanted to surprise me all the time. And then you realize that, like, I'm, like, actually, like, pretty forward. Like, if there's things that I want, I'm going to tell you what I want. Just give me that. Give me what I want. Don't try and surprise me, because I'm not going to like the surprise.
Yep. As you sit there wearing something that I bought you for Christmas.
I did. This little
tracksuit.
just a cozy tracksuit.
And so, like, it's just funny to me because, like, I think that the ability to kind of like fight and share with each other that experience of like, I've been through MMA before.
Yeah.
And like I'm relearning and remembering a lot of things, like just kind of going through it with you. I also like don't really want to coach you. It's like, if you have a question for me, it's like, cool, I'm happy to answer, but I'm not trying to like push that because I know I'm not the person for it.
But I do think that you have a lot of good insight on like the jiu-jitsu for MMA, like changing the game. There's a couple things that have been really helpful that you've pointed out, but I'm not relying on you for those for the most part. And I think that's, number one, great for our relationship, and number two, just like good for me as a competitor, because I think for a long time in our relationship, I would rely on you for my like coaching in jiu-jitsu and for just a lot of like just learning in jiu-jitsu. And I still like ask questions, and I mean, because you have like a wealth of knowledge and you bounce things off of me too. It's kind of like more back and forth than like me just asking you stuff all the time.
More than ever in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because of the things that you've been able to like learn and show me. Because even though I started a year ahead of you, I think I still trained a decent amount more the first couple years that we were training. And also like just
once I started training, we were training the same.
That's true.
That's why I passed you.
You passed me because you cheated. You like...
I won a world title. Yeah,
I was like,
cheating.
I'm gonna still get one of these things at brown belt.
Yeah, you just were focused on other things. It was hard because it was my only focus, and you had a split focus. So I think that's different.
You don't need to coddle me here.
No. But I think I'm not coddling you. I think that you have, and everybody that trains with you like always says like, man, you could still fight adult and do well. Even now, and I think that you have that ability. It's just a matter of like what version of Tyler shows up.
Yeah, that's actually a trap for me, because the moment that I'm like, I should spend more time doing jiu-jitsu or MMA is time that we're going broke.
Yeah, that's why I don't encourage you very often. I'm like, nah, make that money, babe. Somebody's got to like, bankroll me.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Jiu-jitsu's not cheap. But no, like going back to kind of like the original point of like just training together MMA, it's been a lot of fun. And you and I, like, I think it's a fun new dynamic in our relationship to be able to like, it sounds so crazy because it's like no one else can relate, but it's like we got a new style of fighting like we can kind of like do together, Yeah.
No, it is fun. Even though today I was annoyed, but it's like, it's fun to just like kind of like adding in like punching each other.
Yeah. I remember a long time ago, there was a guy that I knew that worked for the DEA. He was a really good jiu-jitsu guy, been doing jiu-jitsu longer than me. And I'd say shout out to like who it was, but he might like be undercover.
Yeah. No, we're not saying that.
Sitting around in like a.
You know who you are. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, this guy, I remember him trying to convince me that I should come to the police academy and teach them like weapons training, and I'm like, bro, I don't know anything about that. Like I don't do those courses, self-defense stuff. I've like been through them, but I don't do it.
Yeah. And
then he was like, no, you don't get it. He's like, you already know how. It's just the rules change. And I remember in St. Louis, like one of the things that we used to do is JW would come to class and he would take a knife. JW
it's a rubber knife.
Yeah, rubber knife.
It's not a real knife.
It's like, no. And we would do all these different drills where it's like one person had a knife like tucked in their belt and
surprise.
Yeah.
You getting stabbed. Like, you defend yourself.
You get to like figure out how do I get them to where they don't pull it out, or if they do, whatever, or it's like on the floor and you just have to like run at it and get it. And that was always a blast. It was super fun.
Yeah.
But also very realistic, because he was kind of telling me, he's like, it's the same thing. It's like, if the rule is I have a gun on my hip and the guy's trying to take it from me, like, the only rule of the game is like you subdue him, but no, like end of the match, the tap is basically him taking that weapon from you.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, oh yeah, like that would be really easy. So it's fun, like going through different rules, you know, because it completely changes like what you do.
Which, just like sidebar, I think is a funny story, because the guy we're talking about that is like a DEA like officer and like this jiu-jitsu guy, we were coming back. We were coming back from San Diego. I think we were on a trip back home, and we get back into the airport in St. Louis, and you were like, oh, I just saw so and so, and I was like, yeah. I was like, oh, where is he? And he's like, well, he's like in the middle of the bus. They were waiting for somebody to get off the airport, and he's like busting somebody that was like trafficking drugs or something like that. And then like we saw him again, and he's like, it's still supposed to be like undercover, like not like, you know, like an officer, and like talking to us and like chatting with us, but like still like getting phone calls and getting people like, oh, we're like calling him because he was like in the middle of busting somebody for like drugs.
Yeah,
smuggling.
It was actually a crazy experience, because I'd known this guy forever. Like he was like a blue belt, but became a purple belt when I first started, and
then stayed a purple belt forever.
But in the Midwest at the time, a purple belt was like you're like
unicorn.
You can walk on water. You know?
Yeah, basically a black belt.
And so he like snuck up behind me while we were waiting for the luggage, and he just like put his hand on my shoulder, and I was like about to say his name, and he was like, hey, I just saw you here, bud. Good to see you. Oh, just 1 second. I need you to just chill out. I'm kind of following this guy over here. And I generally got what he meant. Like, like, thank God I remembered that he was like a member of the DEA. And he's like, I'm gonna take care of this, but I just didn't want you to recognize me. I'm gonna come back. And I was like, all right. And I just like watched him like kind of just walk, like act like he was waiting for a bag, and then just kind of like pretend like he was on the phone, and then just kind of like walked off. And I was like, oh, okay, you know. And then he came back, and then he was like, yeah, we've been following that guy. We knew he's got a bunch of weed or cocaine or something like that in his bag. And yeah, like you said, he just kept like chatting us up and just be like, how are you guys? Good to see you. You guys moved to St. Louis or San Diego, right? And we're like, yeah. And he's like getting calls. He's like, yeah, take him down now.
It was a bizarre experience, but also like, I'm like, oh, so happy to see you again.
It's funny though, like we mentioned like the DEA, but I think I don't think it was weed that he was going after. But
no, they're not going after that.
Weed is becoming like a stranger and stranger thing, like especially for athletes, because USADA
is like said like you're not like, it's like okay to have weed in your system, I guess.
Which I brought this up to Angela whenever we were over there today, who fights in the UFC, and she had said, I was like, hey, isn't this kind of cool? And she was like, yeah, but we'll see if each individual governing body in the state like adopts that. And I didn't think about that before. Yeah. That we think of USADA because the UFC has contracted with them for like out of competition drug testing. But like if you get drug tested like day of still, like I feel like you're not getting the steroid people because they've already figured out stop taking steroids. But the weed people, they're like, I can smoke a week before I'll sweat it out. Yeah.
I don't know though, because I don't know. But it is like kind of crazy because like, what do you do now about like, you know, Nick Diaz? Like he's been like, his career was ruined, basically like ruined because he smoked weed and got caught, like had it in his system. And I think it's so crazy because we train with a lot of people who are always high on the mats, like training, and it's not a performance enhancing drug in my opinion. Like I don't think that it's for some people I think it hinders them, and other people it just like helps them function, and it like helps like their anxiety or things like that.
It helps in the same way that I would say like another non-performance enhancing like medical drug would help someone. Yeah. Like if you're on can you take antidepressants and fight? I think you can probably.
I don't know all the rules, but yeah, I think that it's just kind of a crazy thing that like that's what, you know, ruined somebody's career, and now it's like becoming legal in all these states. I think I imagine it'll be federally legal like very soon. But I don't know, like, how do you remedy that?
I don't know. It's tough because, you know, Nick Diaz, like the damage is like, I don't know. I feel like I'm sure he's gone down like multiple like lawsuit angles and stuff, but like just looking at it is like someone from a distance, and I don't know Nick Diaz well at all. We've talked we've talked to him for 30 seconds.
Yeah, but that's it.
We know Nate quite a bit better.
2-minute conversation.
Yeah, but the thing is like if you look at his career, it kind of took him out of a time whenever he'd already paid his dues. I don't even know if he was in his prime, but he was finally able to capitalize on basically who he was, his character. You know, like this is a dude that's paid his dues. He's very talented. He's a like interesting guy to say the least. And then not only that, you take him out, but then it kind of causes him to go a different direction, I feel like, in life maybe.
Yeah.
And because of that, like even now it's like, will he ever fight again? You have people like Dana White saying like he probably just shouldn't.
Dana said he shouldn't?
Yeah. And
why?
You got to know who knows what Dana's motivation is.
Yeah.
But Dana was basically like, there's nothing that I've seen or heard from people that makes me think I'd like to see Nick Diaz fight again.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, he's kind of out of the game, but I'm still like number one fan of Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
Number one fan.
Nate he's a stud, man. I think he's still like one of the top guys.
And hopefully he's going to be fighting again soon. That's what we've heard.
Yeah. It sounds like they announced this week, I think, that he's going to return to 155, which sounds like they already have a fight in mind for him.
Okay.
Who
do you think that might be?
Well, Khabib said, like, is he going to retire? Is he not going to retire? He's like, don't know yet still. Mm-hmm. Which tells me he probably will fight. Because if the answer was, I'm retired, then the answer is I'm retired.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So...
He's still mulling it over, if you will.
But the fact that Khabib was like, I still don't know, means that they were negotiating something and it fell through. I think, honestly, I don't want to see Khabib fight anybody other than probably, even though I kind of don't really want to see it, George St. Pierre, just because it's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it because I don't think it's good for George.
I think it's the only thing that would make sense, but it's like it doesn't make sense at all because George has been out the game for so long.
Khabib is for sure in his prime.
And so I just don't think that it makes sense. And I know we've talked about that before, but I don't care to see it at this point. I would have loved to see it maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But now I don't want to see it because I love George St. Pierre. Like I was a huge fan of him. He fought on the day that we got married and we recorded it, told everybody to stop. Like, we planned our wedding before that was scheduled. Okay.
While we watched
UFC
100.
Yeah. We just opened it after our reception. We went back to my parents' house and watched UFC because I wanted to watch the GSP fight. And so
he fought Thiago Alves. So in case you were like, I should send them an anniversary gift. You can do some research. You figure out the day that it was. And that George that fought Thiago Alves, I feel like was maybe the best version of him. Because I think that's after he'd already
that was 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Almost 12, I
think that was coming after he'd lost and came back and beat Sarah.
I don't know.
I can't remember.
You're gonna make me
go too deep.
Yeah.
But either way,
anyway.
I felt like that was like the best version of George, and it's like that's the George I want to see fight Khabib. The George now, if he loses, it's like, well,
there's like
George.
Yeah. There's like a 10-year difference in age, or how old is Khabib?
I think he's 31, 32.
Okay.
So not dramatic,
10 years, but like
still athletic prime.
Yeah.
And then the other person is Nate Diaz. Just because it's interesting because Nate is just he won't go away. I don't see Khabib being, even if he out-grapples him, I don't think he submits him. And I think that the effort to submit Nate may work against you.
Yeah.
Like I told you today, I could see him getting in a dominant position, Nate getting out of a submission and then getting on top, and then it being the first time Khabib's ever on the bottom.
Which we talked about the option of maybe like a Charles Oliveira fighting him because I think he's definitely deserving of that like top spot. He's looked incredible, especially after the Ferguson fight. Like, man.
But the thing about Charles Oliveira, while deserved, and I would have liked to see him and Michael Chandler. Like that would have been wanted to see where Michael Chandler's at. Although I don't see him as unbeatable, and I think that that's a problem. against Khabib. And that's the problem I see with Oliveira as well, is I look at it and I'm like, can I imagine a scenario in which Khabib and him are grappling, in which Khabib isn't just like kind of grinding him out?
Yeah.
And I see him getting just kind of like dominated positionally.
Yeah.
And not ever really getting the opportunity to throw anything kind of unique. It being very
I don't know, but he looked really like, he did look really dominant in a way that was, I don't know. It'd still be interesting.
Yeah. Tony Ferguson.
So there's some interesting fights out there for Khabib,
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely plenty. I don't want to see him fight the winner of Conor versus Poirier, though.
Yeah, I don't care to see that either. I hope that's not the thing that they do. Although I'm looking forward to that fight. I don't want to see Khabib fight either of those guys.
Yeah.
Again.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the interesting things about fighting in general is you take a Nate Diaz and his, and then you look at a Khabib, and you even look at a George. George is a freak athlete,
Yeah.
By all accounts, George could have wrestled in college, right?
Yeah, he could have been an Olympic gymnast, I think.
But you think about it, it's what are the I guess what are the attributes and what are the abilities of somebody that is a world class college wrestler or whatever? And it's pretty easy to kind of put your fingers around. It's you want somebody that's strong, for their weight, they are have some unique attributes. But jiu-jitsu in general, and even MMA, it's one of those things where it's if you're going to play wide receiver in the NFL, you're not doing it slow. You got to be fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're 5'11", your chances are way, way worse unless you're insane fast, insane quick, have bigger hands than the average 5'11" person. They measure these things for a reason. But in MMA, there's no, I guess there's no rubric. I guess there's no mold, I guess, for what it means, what you have to be an elite MMA fighter. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think because it's a combination of a lot of different sports. It's not just one thing. If you're playing football, they are measuring all these metrics, which is funny because it's they do the combine and they make, everybody from the quarterbacks and the specialty players, wide receivers and stuff, and then all the linemen run a 40.
Which low-key, it's hilarious to watch the linemen.
It is fun. It's entertaining, but it's entertaining because it's they slow.
Remember when that kid from Alabama's wiener popped out? Fell down? Oh, yeah. That's why you watch.
I forgot about that. But yeah, it's you have all these everybody is their body type, their athletic abilities determine what position they're playing. But with MMA, it's you have to combine a lot of different things. And so your body type, your abilities will determine the style of fight, I think, that you have, but not necessarily I don't know that it's a good judge of if you're going to be a good fighter or not.
Yeah.
Because I think there might be a lot of really super athletic people out there that wouldn't do well in MMA just for maybe a learning reason, or just the way that they're athletic might not translate. I don't know. That could be stupid.
You see it in wrestling. There's guys that are great athletes that end up being great wrestlers for a lot of reasons. Mm-hmm. But even the transition from Olympic wrestling to MMA, there's been some guys that have just been amazing, and then there's other guys that have just been so hyped that it just didn't translate well. They're getting taken down in MMA, and it's there's something there where it's well,
because you have more things to worry about than just taking the other person down. I got to protect myself. It's a real fight. This is protect your brain. You can get knocked out, and when you have multiple things to worry about, it changes the game. It's the same thing of jiu-jitsu. When we start adding strikes on the ground, your whole game changes. If somebody's throwing punches at you, I am gonna be a lot the way that I'm grappling changes. Or even like from in jiu-jitsu, this is something that I've talked about with several people, where it's like, okay, we score points because we pass the guard. Like, I get in half guard, I'm like, this isn't good enough, I need to grind them out, I need to pass, I need to get to the mount, whatever. Yes, of course, if I get into the mount in MMA, that's like great. But if I'm in half guard, I'm not mad about it. On top, like, it's better, it's easier to stay there than to pass and hold somebody in side control. I think you can do a lot more damage from a half guard than you could side control in an MMA scenario. So I think just having like multiple things to worry about like changes a lot. And so if you have spent your whole life in one discipline and you're not able to adapt and change a little bit, like, then I think that's what maybe would cause people problems. You have to be a little bit more fluid and adaptable.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, it's funny because that's like that's the argument in Yuval Harari's book Sapiens, which talks about like how humans or Homo sapiens are not like really all that like, we're not the smartest, we don't have the best memory, we don't live the longest, like, we don't have anything in nature that would say like this species or this creature should like outcompete the rest, but we do because of our adaptability. And I think that one of the things that is just unique about just fighting, probably, but also jiu-jitsu and MMA, is that like the traditional abilities that we think of as athletic ability, it's like they're a little different in the NFL, but each position is slightly different from each other. Same thing with basketball. It's like, it's rare if you see like a under 6 foot basketball player. Like, it's an exception. That's
an exception.
I'm non-gendered. But okay. The other thing that I think is interesting about it is like with jiu-jitsu, it's like you can be fat, you can be fast, you can be slow, you can be realistically, you can be kind of unathletic in the traditional sense, meaning like fast twitch muscle fibers are strong.
I mean, you see a lot of like smaller guys that aren't like, I would say the smaller guys that you would see normally, like not traditionally athletic, excelling like in jiu-jitsu, crazy.
But you think about it too, where it's like you start expanding what you think of as athletic ability. So for example, it's like, well, he's not fast twitch, right?
But he's super flexible.
Yes, exactly. And that's my point, is like somebody in the NFL, you wouldn't be like, hey, this wide receiver, he's not real quick or fast, but he's flexible. And
you're like, I don't care.
It's like when you try to tackle him, does his like leg fall off and he just like slip away or something? They're like, nope.
His knee is still going to hit the ground, and that's going to be a tackle.
He'll be upside down.
Yeah.
He might be throwing triangles once he gets there, but that's it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the thing about jiu-jitsu is like, the person that's like really good at knee through passes like might be somebody that's like strong or even shorter, or like flexible in their hips or something, and that's okay because it's not the only way to pass the guard. The person that's like long and tall, like, I don't know what I'm not long and tall, so whatever they use to pass guard, double unders pass, fat guy, whatever. It's like there's all these different styles that like can adapt to different features of people, and that's what makes fighting, in my opinion, it's really the best sport, because it puts all people's different abilities against each other. Smart, stupid, tall, short, fat, skinny. And there's definitely some, like, if you're exceptionally like gifted in one of those attributes, and there's definitely some that are like more applicable to lots of things, like fast twitch muscle fibers is definitely something that if you're Herschel Walker.
But I think that's one thing that's fun in jiu-jitsu, is because you could take somebody who would be like traditionally athletic, like just like a go hard, super, just like a beast athlete, like freak athlete, and with jiu-jitsu, it's like you can use that against them, where it's like, I'm just gonna like tie them up and wear them out, because like they're throwing everything that they have at me, but once they get tired, that doesn't mean anything, like that athleticism is like hard to like just dig deep and like be athletic when you're just like exhausted, when you're spent. Yeah. And that's when like somebody who is a little bit more, I guess just seasoned like in the sport, you
Clever.
know, yeah, when you use your, like you outsmart somebody in that way. So I think that's what's great, because in a lot of other sports where it's just like, you're either really skilled in a position or just like athleticism can like get you through. I think wrestling is something that is like the more athletic you are, because it's kind of a very grinded out type of thing. You excel, but that can, I'm just talking like, this is like experience. Like a lot of people when they first start, it's like they might be a handful, and like those wrestlers, like crazy athletic wrestlers, would catch you off guard if you're not ready. But if you're like just smart, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna mind my P's and Q's, like stay like really good on my defenses, then you can kind of like negate that athleticism, and like that go hard will like they'll put themselves in bad positions, not even understanding. You know?
I remember that was like, I know that was a big thing with the UFC early on, because it was one of the things that Elio Gracie had talked about like early on in jiu-jitsu, where it's like, if we're going to have a fight, like the rules are going to determine like a big portion of whether or not it's fair, meaning like time limits, all that stuff. It makes a big difference. And if you think about like the reason why what you would define as athletic has to expand when you talk about fighting is because if you think about all other sports, the rule set and just even the purpose is like very, very rigid.
Yeah.
It's like,
I feel like outside of jiu-jitsu, like every sport has like a rule set that it's like, these are the rules. Like, and like, okay, of course it's going to change. Like if you're playing like a basketball game, like normal, or like a pickup game, you might like, but it's still like, there's a general rule set this is the same. This is how you play this game. But with jiu-jitsu, it's like the way that they score, the way that the time limits, I don't know, like overtime rules and things
even
like
just
that.
The formations that they can do and the players that they can have on a field at one time.
Yeah.
It like makes it to where it's like, you have to have 5 fat guys.
Yeah.
Like it's such a disadvantage to not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to have those like.
We can call them big guys. We don't have to call them fat. I feel like it's really rude, but you know, whatever.
But it's like in jiu-jitsu, it's like you don't have to have a great knee cut pass, or you don't have to be. Honestly, you don't even have to be a great guard passer. No. And in MMA, you don't have to be great at stand up. No. You don't.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it definitely helps, but
you see a lot of people too that's like made a career and like gone really well, but then like get exposed like when somebody takes them to the ground. Yeah. Too. So it's like all these.
What I was getting ready to say next is like it's way more common than I would say. Like people feel like they don't need to be great at jiu-jitsu. Yeah. It's obvious. Yeah. Oh yeah. Or just like generally have a solid foundation of grappling. Yeah. I mean, that was the knock on Gaethje going in with Khabib, was basically that he's not really, his like submission grappling is not the best. Yeah. And it's like, ooh.
But he's like, you know, like an Olympic level wrestler, right?
All-American.
All-American, yeah.
I think he has the Olympic wrestling tattoo, so that means he worked out at the training center.
Yeah, I don't know. But like he's a high level wrestler and he got taken down easily, and which is surprising to me. It was super surprising, but like
that was the concern, because before that everybody was like, they're afraid to take Gaethje down because they know how good of a wrestler he is. But it's like with Khabib, you knew that wasn't going to be the case. You knew that he was going to try to take him down, and Gaethje knew that. Yeah.
So I think people, I don't know.
But the rule set really defines the fight.
It does.
And like what abilities you can have.
That's why I think in jiu-jitsu you have all these different rule sets, because everybody's trying to like either find a rule set that meets their favorite things, like that plays to like their style of fighting. Yes. And or
their strengths, really.
Yeah. Or they're just trying to find a rule set that makes jiu-jitsu more exciting to the spectator. And to that, I would say, I don't know, like for me, I don't think jiu-jitsu is an exciting like sport to watch regardless. And I know I'm like crapping on like that, but there's some times that it's really exciting, But shorter time limits, I think, making it more exciting. Mm-hmm. I think the longer you get, and that's one thing that I don't understand why people want to just like unlimited time, like for submission only, whatever. It's like, well, I don't know. Like if you know the sport and you're watching, and like if somebody gets to a dominant position that would be something that would score points in another tournament, it's like that, like, that's like hard and that's exciting to do. It's like, oh my God, he passes guard. Like, holy crap. Because, you know, like if you pass Shanji Ribero's guard, it's like you are one of the best people ever, because it's nearly impossible to do, right?
There's such a reputation for so long that it's like people talk about it. And that's the thing is like in jiu-jitsu, you have this thing where it's like, you know, what's exciting in sports? Action, you know? Yeah. And the thing is like with jiu-jitsu, how long can I do action as an athlete? Yeah. I mean, a handful of minutes. Yeah. You know, realistically, it's like you can go ham for, I mean, Gary Tonin is probably the person that I've seen like just have the most unlimited cardio. Yes. And even then, it's like it really wears down after, you know, going hard for 3 or 4 minutes or something like that. So if you want to see an unlimited match going into it, if your plan has got to be either pour it on, if you're going to use all your energy,
like empty the tank right away, or like conserve energy and just try and like wear the other person down.
And there's almost no one that like wants to lose, and so you know that it's a losing strategy to like basically just pour it on to the point to where it's like, well, I'm either gonna be so tired this person's just gonna completely defeat me, or I'm gonna just catch him.
I'm gonna catch him,
because then it's a very effective strategy to just be like, all right, well, I just gotta hold this person off long enough, like we were talking about earlier on, you know, like I just got to survive. Because if the rule set is there are no rules, unlimited time limit, whatever goes, your best bet is like, if they take me down, who cares? You know? But if they take me down, they get 2 points, and in 5 minutes, we're going to see who has the most points. Like, now it matters.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like shorter time limits like definitely make it more exciting. And it's something we've talked about it, where it's like if you would have and this is like another thing, it's like we're just keep talking about the rules to make it more exciting, like change the rule set. And so for like, I don't know, maybe we're just biased on how we think it would be more exciting and fun because it plays to like our strengths or whatever, the ways that we would be more interested. But I think definitely like shorter matches, or even do rounds like MMA or wrestling does. It's like you have like, you know, short periods, but it's like 3 or something like that.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that would make actually MMA better is actually being able to release the judges' scorecards in between rounds.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think you would, number one, you create transparency, which is nice, but it helps the corners, it helps the coaches. It's like...
And it changes the way you fight. Like, if you think that you're winning and you just have to conserve, like, you're like, oh, I'm pretty sure, like, I'm up on these things, which I think as a coach is silly to ever assume or tell your fighter that they're winning. Just assume that you're not, because the coaches or the judges have like screwed people over so many times. Like there's been a lot of fights where I think everybody in the world's like, what were they watching?
It's really like, hard to ever tell a fighter anything other than it might be like, even if they're dominating, it's close. It's close. It's closer than you might think.
Yeah. And so it's like, but if you know, like for a fact, like I'm losing in the scorecards, you're going to change your strategy going ahead, you know? And I think that's like where it makes it hard in jiu-jitsu too, where you start like doing like the reviews and stuff and like calling back points or whatever, because you can do that. But I think there's a lot of things that would change in the way that somebody was fighting if that was an overturned,
for sure,
you know, on both sides, right? Like on both sides of the thing.
Because so the momentum, and then also like you expend, like you're exchanging energy for like you're betting all the time with your cardio. You know? It's like, I'm betting right now that if I like pour it on, even though I'm going to get tired, I'm going to trade that tiredness for the better chance of me being able to get this pass here or get this sweep, you know? And if it doesn't pay off, then you're tired and now you're trying to sweep again and now you're out of position. Vice versa, like now you're on top, now you've got some points and like you can hang on.
Yeah.
But it's the adaptability we were talking about earlier on, you know, kind of coming full circle. But like our friend that was a DEA agent that was like, oh no, it's just the rules change. You have the pistol on your hip, you know, like just don't let the guy take it. That's the number one rule. I think that's why fighting is great, and like it's that adaptability, and that's what I think we've really enjoyed in our relationship. See how good I am at fighting, man. I'm a host. But like, you know, like
wow,
that's
narcissist.
why it's exciting for us in a relationship to like be training this new thing together. You know, it's like this adaptability of it all, and like just exploring. I think you and I are both explorers, and hopefully all of our listeners at home sort of like that's what they enjoy about the show, is like just being able to explore kind of like in a lot of cases aspects of grappling, jiu-jitsu, or whatever that like you either would do normally with your friends on the mat, and you can't right now, COVID, or just like you don't get those experiences necessarily where you're at.
Yeah, I think that's why like this change of pace has been good for both of us, because we're both kind of like out of the rut. Like, you know, I think in jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of people, it's a lot of times that you get into these ruts, like where you're like, feel like I'm plateaued, I feel like whatever. And then when you start adding new aspects of it, or like changing, like maybe you start doing more nogi, or maybe you start doing that. Like example. It's like, yeah, because I think that's something that like in the jiu-jitsu world, it's like you're either like a nogi person or a gi person.
Kinda
and then like
to be now almost.
Yeah, but I think if you can kind of like add all those things, it's like it benefits both sides, and then you also kind of like help your brain to like not be bored, and like you're always like challenging yourself, and it's a new thing, like to keep, it's like a new obstacle to overcome, or a new goal to set. And I'm just like, I think that's you and I, like as like we get bored if we don't have something that we're striving for or working towards. And so for this, it's like now I have this new thing to do. And it's a lot of fun. It's really exciting.
You need a challenge. You need comparison to get better, to grow. And, you know, you and I have that built into our lives in so many ways. But that's why I think it's really hard to get good at jiu-jitsu. If you don't, it doesn't have to be competition, but you have to have something that is holding you accountable for like improvement. And that usually means like I'm training nogi now. I'm only passing on the left. Like that was something I was doing this summer. I was like, I'm not getting really ready for anything. I'm not ever planning to really compete again, but I never really passed on the left knee cut. So I was like, every day I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to pass on the left the way that I pass on the right.
And I think it's something that, you know, when you start getting bored, or you're like, my training partners, we have the same role every time, and you get kind of stuck in that. It's like, well, you know, let your ego down and add something new to the game. Like, you don't have to just do that the whole time. You could try something different to like beat their A game or whatever. And I think that's like, you have to let your ego go a little bit to like try something new, and like,
and you'll probably get messed up at first.
But that's okay.
But the reason is because you're probably doing whatever the technique is you're trying to do terrible, and you can get better at it now.
And you're only going to get better with practice.
Yep.
So, you know,
go for it.
Suck it up and like just do it.
And speaking of which, if you do suck it up and start doing it, you're going to probably want to recover from whatever it is you do, because it's probably going to be painful and make you sore. So
all your joints.
I recommend that you try out some of the supplements from our good friends at Keon. And I know you've been taking a lot of different things. You've been taking the colostrum, the essential amino acids, and I know that just from like just doing some initial research on, like, we do research on all the stuff that we take. Not only is the quality really, really good at Keon, but it's the fact that those particular supplements are very much backed in science.
Yes, which like it's not always the case. I think there's a lot of things that, especially it's like bro science out there. So I'm really grateful to have found Keon, because I do think, you know, if I'm going to be spending money and I'm going to be like putting things into my body, like I want to know what it's doing. And like, I do feel a difference, which I think you and I both have gone through phases with supplements where I'm like, I'm taking a whole bunch of stuff because like they say to do it, but like, I don't really notice the difference. So then I stop taking it. And then with the Keon supplements, I definitely notice the difference when I'm taking them or not taking them.
Yeah, and to me that's like a huge thing. Which
also, like, if you don't want supplements, they make like a really dope coffee, so you can get like I don't know all the science behind it. I'm not gonna pretend to know, But if you want a really clean energy, good coffee,
or you're like super into coffee, like check them out for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not that person. I won't pretend to be. That said, you mentioned spending money. If you want to save some money on some KION supplements, you can use the promo code Bishop at checkout.
No, Bishop BJJ.
Bishop BJJ and save how much?
15%.
15%. Yeah. Bam. Yeah. Save those dollars.
Yeah.
Stimulus from your good friends at Not Fighting. And then last, our good friends at Johnson's Tire and Auto. I'm just kidding. We were talking about the Diaz brothers earlier. I'll never forget Nate
Chase
Chevrolet. Nick Diaz chokes out Gomi with a Gogo Plata. Later on, like pops for weed because they're like he had insane amounts of weed he must have smoked before he walked out there. And then I just remember he thanked Shays Chevrolet like 10 times in the interview. He's like, shout out to Shays Chevrolet.
They're up in Stockton, I guess.
Yep. They've been sporting since day one. Still in business. I actually looked them up because I wanted to know, like, is it Shays? Chevs? Chase?
How you say it?
Yeah.
How you spell it?
I don't remember.
Okay. We're not sponsored by them, so we don't need to.
No. But they got a nice promo on this podcast for sure.
Dang it.
Should hit them up. But, we want to thank everyone for listening to this podcast. And if you have a chance, please leave us a review on iTunes. So whatever you're listening to this on, just like take your phone out real quick. Just do us a huge favor. It's a personal favor. And just whatever system or function they have for reviews, leave a review.
Yeah.
It's super, super helpful. But yeah, outside of that, I'm super happy to be in 2021 with my wife and happy to have everyone joining us to listen. Really appreciate it.
And stay tuned because we should have some exciting info coming up, maybe about some fight news soon.
Yeah, so if you're like, Jena said she was going to fight in May, but I think she's all talk. I don't think that's ever going to happen.
I ain't been all talk about nothing. I don't even think that was the right way to say that. Good grammar. Anyway, we
want to thank everyone for watching or listening. But just if you're, whatever it is.
Tuning in.
Yeah, they don't actually tune either. But tune in to
Not Fighting.
Excellent.
Such a great host.